All right, so I'm going to be doing a boating engineering lesson today. So this is going to be an engineering sequence where students test boats, then revise their designs, and then there's a final judging portion. So I'd like to acknowledge NSF for the funding for this generous grant, the University of the University of Oklahoma, and also East Central University, which just couldn't find a transparent background thing, but I'm also thankful for their participation. So for context, where this lesson falls in the middle of the sequence, or this portion of the lesson. So this unit starts with an introduction to computer-assisted design, where I do a demo where we all design an object together to kind of give them an introduction to the tools in the particular program we're using, which is Onshape. And then the next day the students will have practice making their own non-functional piece, like a little charm or a pencil topper, their choice. Just to provide a low-pressure environment for them to have an exciting creative experience with getting used to the tools. The piece we're going to be doing today is the demo boat testing. So before I actually have them design their own boats, I'm going to have some boats for them to test. In future years, it'll include past student designs, but right now it's just boats that I just like, hey, this could be a cool shape. Some of them are intentionally kind of crazy because I don't want to make the best boat ever and then have 20 identical copies. Some of them are just like, I literally didn't know it was going to work, so that's going to be very exciting. Some of them I haven't tested yet. So the purpose of this is to really have a class discussion about what kind of qualities a boat should have, what kind of shapes might work, kind of give them an introduction, kind of like get the creative juices flowing, like, oh yeah, this is not good, this is great, like I want my boat to be like this, or like I don't want it to have that problem. Really get them fired up, because especially when it's something new, they can have a lot of like a creativity block and feel really intimidated. So this is to really get them excited about it, and really also, we're going to be using the rubric I'm going to use in this final judging portion, so to really get them to understand that criteria at a deeper level, because they get that early exposure to what I'm looking for. Then after they're hopefully all fired up, they're going to design their own boats in Onshape. Then they're going to test their original boats, and then, because engineering is an iterative process, they are going to revise that, and there is going to be a formal revision process where they have to tell me like what kind of changes they're going to make and why before I do the second print, and then judging. And if it wasn't clear before, all of these boats will be 3D printed. So we are going to jump into this demo boat testing. So we've already done some computer-assisted design. You guys are familiar with that. But that doesn't really lead into today directly. Today we're just going to be talking about the boats themselves. So let me get an expo marker because I can't think with that one. All right, class. So the role we're going to be playing is we're an engineering firm that's been contracted to build boats for a company. The boats are going to be powered by an engine that they provide, and they need to be able to carry items because this is a shipping company. What kind of qualities do you guys think are going to be in a boat that they would want? Like, if they said, man, Aaron, your boat is fantastic, what would that boat be like?
Buoyant?
Yeah, so it should float, right? That's like the minimum we want. Now that one I completely agree with. So in fact, instead of having for the class discussion, why don't you guys talk for a minute, and then I want every pair to write at least one thing. It's okay if somebody else has it up there too. So on the whiteboard, I want you guys to write one thing that you think should be a quality of this boat. So it does need to float. It does need to be carrying cargo. It does need to be able to travel fast, like you don't want it to take a million years, right? This is a company, they need to make money. There isn't a specific efficiency speed, but because they're all using the same engine, we will be able to tell the efficiency by how fast it is. Okay, safety, that is a really good one. So we're only going to be making prototypes, so there's not going to be any people on there because they're only this big. But that is a good one. Sharp racing lines. So these aesthetic ones, there will be prizes for good-looking boats, but that's not on the rubric. So I'm going to have judges pick their favorite boats aesthetically, and those people are going to be getting extra credit quiz grades. So that will be evaluated, but this isn't going to be part of your final judging grade. but you will be rewarded if your boat looks really cool. Okay, so let me go ahead and go over the rubric with you. So I'm going to pass one of these out to everybody. Actually, Charles is going to pass one of these out to everybody. So another piece, you guys are thinking about the boating performance, but we're also going to have some that incorporate the manufacturing part. So do you guys think that they're going to want the biggest boat possible to do the job or the smallest boat possible to do the job?
Smallest.
Yeah, smallest, so they're going to want it to be as smaller. So we're going to be looking at the weight of the boat. And we are also going to be looking at the size, so the dimensions, especially if you think about boats. I mean, sometimes there's limits, like with docks or like the Panama Canal, for example. It's like very embarrassing if you get stuck there. So there are some dimensional limits where it has to be smaller than that in length and width. So let's look at our rubric. So wait, so can anybody tell me what is the maximum weight you can get to have full points?
Weight?
Yeah, for weight.
Less than 300 grams.
Yes, it has to be less than 300 grams. To recognize that manufacturing piece, if you have an ultralight boat, you can get extra points. So if it's under 200 grams, then there is an extra point possibility there. What about size? What's the maximum length and width we're looking for?
Maximum length is 25 centimeters or less, and the width is 38 centimeters or less.
Yes, and there is a penalty if it is larger than that. So you're going to get negative points for every centimeter you're over for either of those dimensions. All right, floating. All right, so if the boat sinks, that's not floating. Also, I think we can all agree if the boat flips upside down, even though it didn't sink, are we happy with that performance? No. So I did have to add that one after some initial testing because I was like, well, it does technically float, but I don't think this is what our client is looking for. Obviously, part of design is things aren't always going to work, so I want to recognize boats that are don't sink all the way, but like they do float. Like we can improve upon that, but at least they're not sinking. So you will get points if it submerges but doesn't sink all the way. But we do not want our engines to get wet. We don't want that electrical equipment to get wet, so you will lose points if the batteries fall below the water point. You'll get more points if it doesn't float all the way, but that engine piece stays above the water line. And then boat stays upright at all times, that's where you're going to see those full points. For load, so what is the load and what is the expected load capacity?
So you got 300 grams for the boat,
6 marbles.
and then you got 6 marbles plus the 300 grams.
Yeah, so the 6 marbles is the load capacity, and your boat can be up to 300 grams. So yeah, it has to carry itself obviously too. Now you only need to be able to carry 5 marbles, but when you're designing something that serves a purpose, it's nice to go over, like, you know, with elevators, probably not carrying more than 500 pounds, right? But they're not going to be rated to only 500 pounds, right? You don't want to have like 7 people on there and you're like, oh man, this elevator is going down. So designing for overcapacity is great because you know that if you approach that or if the business expands, you don't have to worry about that. All right, and then speed. So you only the fastest boat will get maximum points for this. So when we're scoring this, we're going to be writing everybody's times up here, and we will not know how many points you get in that category until we're done with that. So that point is calculated after they've all been tested. Also, everywhere you see this little pencil icon, you have to write something there. So make sure you're writing something there. So we've got different stations. You're going to weigh the boats here, you're going to measure them here, and then you're actually going to be testing them here. So there's instructions at each station how you're going to perform that task. Please weigh and measure your boats before you test them. Why might we want to weigh them before we test them in the water?
Because you might have water.
Yes, they might add water weight, exactly, especially if they sink, which might happen with some of the boats. So in pairs, I want you to grab a boat. So I'd like every pair to test 2 boats. We will have to share, so you'll be testing, so 2 groups, each boat will be tested twice. So go ahead and grab one of the boats. When you're measuring and weighing them, do not grab the engine case. That's only going to be for the performance piece.
We give information and then we test it.
Do you have,
Where do we, we're in the limit.
micrometers or rulers or whatever?
Yeah, keep the letters to help you late. Alright, Aaron, pick a letter of the alphabet.
It's floating.
Alright, you have vote A.
I think that says,
Marble load.
Alright, Kim, push this lever up, or else the batteries will get really hot and drain, okay? So, part of your lab day will be make sure that you guys have
Where else would the batteries go?
I guess that's which color do you?
Okay, I'm smudging.
Yeah, it's getting
and
check class.
Designated.
We just take it off a little bit.
Did blow out, so.
It's sank at 3 more.
Go ahead and talk about our results here. Alright, so let's look at this boat. So this is boat B. Sandy and Alyssa, can you tell me, how did your guys' boat perform when you guys put it in the water?
It floated for a second until we added marbles.
Yeah, until you added the marbles, so maybe, you, so if you guys are going to make a change to this design, what do you guys think you would do?
A few less holes.
Yeah, maybe less holes. There are holes in the bottom of the boat, so that is probably not great for floating. Now, do you guys think these holes are part of the design? Like, is it worth printing this one again, do you think?
I think it might be on the front just to, who knows, you know?
Yeah, who knows?
To store lifeboats on or something.
Well, I do know the designer of this boat. There's not supposed to be holes in the front. So it might be worth printing this one again. So sometimes things do have issues in manufacturing and not in design. Did the marbles stay in place?
Yes.
Okay, so they did stay in place, even when it sank.
It sank fast and the marbles stayed on.
Now, when you're scoring the marbles, you do get points if they have a place to be, and on the final judging, you have to explicitly tell me where that place is, okay? So you're going to tell me where they're supposed to be. If they get wet, you lose points, because generally when people send cargo, do they want the cargo to get like covered in ocean water? No, yes. That's generally frowned upon, even though it's still on the boat. So it is still on the boat, so you'll get partial points. So you'll have a penalty for if they fall off the boat and if they get wet. So that'll be -4. You do get points for if they stay on the boat, even if the boat sinks, or, yeah, so the marbles, you can get penalties and you can get bonuses. So you can get 6 points maximum, or you can get -4 minimum. So keep that in mind when you're scoring those.